We've had plenty of nations that have shown the world how intelligent and knowledgeable they were. We've had, in the most infamous, the Sharlayans, who've shown us both the good and the bad of higher society. Now, things have changed. There is a nation that quite literally hoards knowledge from the rest of the world. Anything they obtained and deemed knowledgeable was kept locked away in their archives, only being shared by those they deemed worthy, which weren't much. The Sharlayans are a fickle bunch, hungry for knowledge from every corner of Eorzea. They deemed themselves the keeper of knowledge and would hold on to information that could possibly change the world. It was because of this knowledge that they were able to flee Eorzea before the Charlayans mounted an attack. Not only did they not share their knowledge with the rest of the continent, but they also left them high and dry, fleeing their old colony and leaving it to the savagery of war. And as keepers of knowledge, many characters within the 14 lore space are quite known to try to help Eorzea the best they can. Many we actually know, like the Levier family. Alphino and Alisaie are two of them. Oriange, of course, Papalymo and Kryle, and of course Matoya, who would be at this point the most knowledgeable Charlayan that's still left in Eorzea. Others you may be thinking are Y'shtola and Thancred, but in fact they are not true-blooded Sharlayans. They were adopted into the colony for sure, Y'shtola more than Thancred by Matoya, but the tattoos on their necks symbolize the connection to the Circle of Knowledge, a subsect of Sharlayans who wished to see Eorzea free of its dark future. Yeah, sorry, I had to interrupt myself here. It's not called the Circle of Knowledge, it's called the Circle of Knowing, and I'm going to say knowledge several times in this video. Also, it is not a subsect of a group from Charlayan culture. It's basically a group created by Louisoix so that he has a group of people that'll work under him and basically keep Eorzea safe. It actually is a combination of the group Circle of Knowing and another group called Path of 12 that became Scions of the Seventh Dawn and all that whatnot. I just wanted to clarify that, and past me, you're an idiot. Okay, back to the video. And if you're thinking of Thancred, well yes, he's incredibly intelligent, but do you think this guy is a Charlayan at all? He was picked up off the street, but he was adopted by someone who was very smart, so kind of helps. Now, the group that I was talking about was led by Louisoix, succeeded by Mephilia, and currently without a leader, but instead act as a group where they work together to save the free people, or free people who are basically under the thumb of Garleans, with their penultimate goal being the salvation of Eorzea through unity. Now, the Sharlayans, who've had hordes of knowledge, decided not to share their wealth for certain reasons. Knowledge they held could turn the tides of battle for whomever obtained them, but because they followed the credo of observation without intervening, no knowledge of how to defend against the invading Garleans were never shared. And this is quite funny, seeing how they had insiders within the Empire feeding them information on their culture. So by no means were Eorzea not without information. It was the Sharlayans who didn't share it. Their motherlands are known to be in the old world north of Eorzea, and it is said to be quite the sight. Again, as colonists to Eorzea, they were there to find and hoard knowledge, mainly there for information on the Sharlayans. They then found out secret knowledge about the world itself and felt that everything they learned needed to be held guarded in the Great Google Library, the very symbol of the Sharlayans and the place one would venture in order to understand their culture. The library held all of their knowledge they learned throughout their time in Eorzea, and because they had so much in terms of need-to-know information, from cures to culture to answers for the most forbidden of secrets, the library was locked down and guarded by their highest of security magics. Now, this is no surprise. The rest of the realm already knew how secretive the Sharlayans can be, hiding vital information so to keep order in the world, but obviously, even though they were counted as one of the major city-states, even though they've been invited to multiple occasions of joining them and their fellow countrymen, even though their information could change the tides of war for the Eorzean alliance, they stayed their hand and only watched, rather than to intervene. Now, by no means am I saying that the Sharlayans are bad, or evil, or stuck up, or anything of that nature. They are just very, very against war, to the point where they tried to broker a peace treaty with the Garleans before anything could happen. and it fell on deaf ears. They've traveled throughout the land, going across the ocean just to come to Eorzea, only to run away and leave their knowledge behind. And it's a sad thing, because the Charlayan culture is actually quite unique in its own way, where their motto is knowledge seeks no man, meaning they must seek the knowledge, not vice versa, as knowledge will not come to them. And it's kind of cool that they live in this kind of nation, because between everybody, they are equalists. They don't have any kind of racial issue, because that is not something that they care about. They don't publicly publicize their population. That's a lot of P's there. And they only think about the people that lives within their state and the matters in between. So yeah, they're not bad people. They just, well, you could ask a little bit more from them with all the knowledge that they have. This affected the society back in the Charlayan homeland, as many who have been to Eorzea or have heard of them felt a sense of responsibility to help the Eorzean people to fight back against the Garleans. Sharing the land and even trading with them, they already knew what a peaceful accord looked like between the multitude of nations, aside from Ishgard, who was still in the midst of their Dragonsong War. FYI, they were also keeping an eye on that. But still, they had a sort of camaraderie with the other Eorzeans as a sort of info broker with the rest of the continent. Now, because of this, the Sharlayans are divided between two sects at the moment. The side who wishes to stay their hand, observe history as outsiders, and keep log of everything after everyone eventually blows themselves up to hell. And those who wish to share their knowledge and help the side whose fates were said to be sealed by the Divine Chronicles. The Divine Chronicles are verses in a collection of texts written by someone known as Messiah Thousand Eyes, a mysterious prophet who foresaw the calamities of the 6th and 7th, and is assumed to have more texts of past calamities along with future ones that have yet to come. It was the Charlayan people who brought to light the Divine Chronicles, and it is assumed that they also have the rest of the text somewhere locked inside the library. Many actually assume that they have taken the entire Chronicles back with them to the Motherlands. This isn't stated as fact, by the way, but many assume it is true due to underground talk about their nation. I mean, if we take a look at their wonderful colony, we can see that they had plenty to hide from the rest of the world. They surrounded themselves with mountains, peaks that only have 2 entries and exits, one that can be done by foot after going through dangerous territories, and another which requires the ability to take flight. You want something from them? Then you have to go through all of this crap first, and even after that, they may not even say anything to you, because the credo for the Sharlayans is to find knowledge, hoard knowledge, and hide knowledge too dangerous for the world. Their library speaks true for everything they are. Their entryway looks very ordinary. You check in and you get to explore the entire library, and there's a lot to see. However, there are hallways that you have to find twice, because you have to go through the dungeon twice, one leading to a suppository of forbidden text guarded by a literal book hoarder, and the other with even more secured text chained up to the wall, this time guarded by an owl with nightmare features when observed up close. And these texts are possibly even more important than the ones locked up in the basement. And even one of their biggest secrets, the Anti-Tower, show credence to their experimental side. You see, the underside of the Anti-Tower, or overside depending on how you look at it, is said to be the doorway to the lifestream that circulates throughout the entire planet. That means the Sharlayans were literally hiding the front door to Heidelin's bloodstream. Looking around their old colony, you can find just how the Sharlayans lived, with records of livable quarters and even a giant botanical garden that went down quite some ways. They even had experiments in said garden that, when left unchecked, went wild eventually, taking over everything. This garden also showed a bit of similarities to them in another hyper-intelligent race that no longer exists, but to compare them to the ancients would mean that every intelligent society had a secret bio-garden that could put Umbrella from Resident Evil to shame. But still, the evidence of their experiments could be seen plain as day. Whether it's the Anti-Tower, their greenhouse, or even their library, the Charlayan people were indeed a group of intellects that could possibly rival the Alligans given enough time. They had a good grasp of life manipulation, dimensional magics, time magics, foresight of impending events, and even dabbled, if not controlled, a certain aspect of fate and destiny through their astronomy, astrology, and astromancy know-how. In fact, astrologian was their one perfected art that they wanted to keep to themselves by all means. Astrology was practiced the world over, but none can shift the tides of fate like the Charlayan could. Mixing the understanding of astronomy, the study of the stars, astrology, the study of fates and destinies, and astromancy, which is the magic which tampers with the fate of others by shifting the likelihood of certain events. To explain a bit further, astromancy controls one's individual phenomenon of likely events, their luck to simplify, or fate to further confuse you. Sharlayan research found a way to control the likelihood of one being stronger, or escaping death, defending against attacks, or even recovering from one's own injuries. So take an individual who was attacked before and turn the tides of feeling pain, reversing that event by manipulating their personal time and having that injury never happening. Basically, time controlling someone's most recent event or a regular healing spell, to put it simply. The Sharlayans dove deep into astromancy and found it to be quite powerful. So powerful that they thought it best to keep it to themselves. Yeah, well, too bad that didn't happen because the art of astrology is being spread across Eorzea thanks to yours truly. Now, it's not like Charlayan culture is hyper-focused on self-preservation to a T. They will intervene if necessary, and more than likely, events will turn to their society if something like the world ever being in danger came to be, which is very likely to happen. Because of course, if there is no world, there won't be anything to log into history, or even Charlayans to log said history. To be honest, I do see them as a group of people with knowledge that may make or break the future of Eorzea, and since they themselves are divided as to whether they should help the Eorzeans or not, seeing this whole war thing as barbaric, it'll come down to if the story writers think that adding a major shift to the plot by involving the nation of scholars will be interesting or not. I mean, it would make sense lore-wise. We already have Sharlayans who are major key players in trying to save Eorzea, and we already know their homeland is in a bit of a political pickle because of the subject of Eorzea. And they need to do something soon, or else something prophesies will spell the end of Eorzea, and if not just that continent, but the whole world itself. Also, fun fact, it's assumed that the Eorzean encyclopedia was, in fact, written by a Charlayan. Lore-wise, that is. Okay, so if you've made it this far into the video, thank you, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to hear more lore in Final Fantasy XIV or Final Fantasy in general. And if you haven't, share the video, like the video, do whatever, leave your comments down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.